Welcome back to the Podium Performance Podcast, where we talk about physical performance. I'm your host, Coach Tony. You can find this podcast on YouTube or on iTunes and Spotify podcasts. In the last episode, I spoke about the types of strength. Today, I'm going to be talking about the athletic or physical trait of speed, what it is in terms of performance, as well as different types of speed. For those watching on YouTube, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. For those listening on iTunes or Spotify podcasts, remember to subscribe. Okay, let's get the easy stuff out of the way first. Speed is actually quite simple to define. From a physics point of view, it is the unit of distance covered per unit time. We know this as meters per second, kilometers per hour, miles per hour, or even feet per second. Different sports will use different units. In the USA, they like their miles and feet, while the rest of the world sticks typically to SI units and uses meters and kilometers and seconds. But what sports will use will be what are usually the most simple for that sport, with kilometers and miles per hour being the most commonly used, because we, the viewer of the sport, can solve that much easier than figuring out how many meters per second something is moving. Saying a cyclist is moving 72 kilometers per hour is more relatable for most people to understand than 20 meters per second. But in some situations, it's simple based on the scale. Something moving a short distance and slowly will use meters per second a lot of times, like lifting speed or even running speed. With this in mind, let's look out into the world. Speed in sport is strictly just how fast either the competitor or an implement or object is moving. So pitch speed in baseball, service speed in tennis or volleyball, running and swimming speed, the speed in which you throw a punch or a kick, how fast a bike or a car is moving. Looking at the tactical world, we also take into the account muzzle velocity or speed of a projectile such as a bullet or an artillery round. Some other speed type measures we can look at are acceleration, revolutions per minute, aka RPM, strokes per minute, and even strikes per minute in combat sports. When talking in a tactical environment, we can look at rounds per minute. Some sports can force a minimum speed, like basketball has a shot clock that forces an offensive attempt at the basket every 24 seconds in the NBA. Major League Baseball now has a pitch clock forcing the pitcher to pitch in a certain amount of time. And football has the 40-second play clock forcing the offense to start a play by that time. In motorsports, a pit stop is timed showing allowing us, for example, to see how quickly 4 tires can be changed in open wheel Formula One driving. There's an age-old saying that Nike has even used in marketing: speed kills. While this can be both figuratively and literally true, why is that? Well, first off, faster players in sports like football and soccer are able to get separation on an opposing player or close the distance to make plays. The faster that 2 people come together in a collision, the more force is involved, which can lead to various injuries. At the same time, speed can be what gets an athlete paid, gain massive fame and fortune, and win medals and set records. It can also be what helps you make teams or not make teams because of your lack or your possession of speed, and that can be viewed as either a liability or as a benefit to the team and to yourself. Now in motorsports, where extreme speeds are involved in sports, a collision at 200 miles per hour or 320 kilometers per hour into a wall has and can result sadly in death. The only reason that a bullet is effective is that it is traveling at an extremely high speed and makes impact at a very small point of impact. This is what creates the damage caused by a bullet. So the saying, speed kills, is right. While yes, speed has a very massive genetic or innate skill component to it, it is also highly trainable. One of the biggest aspects that can be trained for is in the technical aspect, whether it is learning how to run better and more efficiently, or is becoming more adept at throwing a projectile like a baseball, or how you throw a punch or a kick. You can even take into account how quickly you can change positions, going from high to low. For example, you're shooting for a double leg takedown in wrestling or in mixed martial arts. On the other side of the spectrum, increasing strength to overcome the resistance, whether it is your own body weight, the weight of your arm or another limb like your leg, or the weight of a projectile like a shot put, a baseball, even a bowling ball. Also, we have to take into account that the resistance from these implements, you need the strength to overcome that resistance. I'll use running speed as an example now. The simple calculus of running speed is step frequency multiplied by step length. This means that the only ways that you can actually get faster is to either increase your step frequency, so how many steps per second you take, or the length of each step. Yes, our innate and genetics are going to influence both of these, whether it's how your nervous system is simply wired that allows you to take more steps, or how efficiently you naturally run, but also how, simply thinking, a taller person, for example, is typically going to take a longer step than a shorter person. People with long legs take longer steps than people with short legs. The other way to improve speed is to increase the length of that step. How do you do that? Well, beyond the genetic factor, you have to look at how do you take a longer step efficiently? Well, you need to be stronger. Yes, outside of improving the mechanics of the step, the only way after the mechanics are efficient to improve it is to now be able to make it longer by projecting or propelling your body through space further. The only way to do this is for the body to be stronger in relation to its weight. So just think of a car in this example. To go faster, you have to step on the accelerator, which is going to inject more fuel into the engine, or if you're using an electric car, it's going to use more energy. And the outcome of this is more power. In cars and even in internal combustion engine aircraft, this is what we call horsepower. The same can be applied to many movements as well, just like throwing a baseball. The faster the arm goes, the faster the ball is going to go. But that arm must also be strong enough to absorb and handle the forces that you're having output. So what about acceleration, and what is it? Basically, it is the rate of change of speed. While speed is very important for many sports, acceleration might actually be the most important speed factor, because it's not only dealing with the increase of speed, it is also the effect of slowing down and change of direction, which is what we commonly call agility. The NFL Combine uses the 40-yard dash test, but for many athletes, it is less important for their position than seeing how quickly they can get from, say, 0 to 10 yards, or from a standstill to max speed. I say this because it is very rare for any play to actually last longer than 40 yards for all but maybe 1 to 2 players in a play. Typically, this is your receiver and a cornerback or a safety. The same goes for soccer, where most of the runs are actually under 20 yards, with the vast majority of them only being a few quick explosive steps, followed by a change of direction, a pass, or a challenge on the ball. For movements like this, it means top speed running is going to be way less important than the ability to accelerate, so training for such will be more important than, say, for a sprinter whose goal is to run the 100 meters in a straight line as fast as possible. Another acceleration in sport is also very critical: collisions. This is the cause of contact injuries, especially traumatic brain injuries, TBIs, and concussions. A lot of times in sport, we hear the term power being thrown around. All it really is in the sporting world is another term for acceleration, but it's typically used to describe certain things. Commonly, we associate power with explosive movements like a jump, a tackle, or in combat sports, a punch or kick. In basketball, we take a look at an athlete like Zion Williamson and call him powerful for how he gets up as high as he does at his body weight. He's 280 pounds and he's got something like a 45-inch vertical jump. That takes a lot of acceleration or power to get that much weight off the ground as quickly as he does. We take a look at NFL retiree Aaron Donald as powerful in the way he gets off the line of scrimmage and chases the quarterback. In a few quick, powerful steps, he's already typically around the offensive tackle and he's chasing the quarterback. Or we take a look in combat sports at somebody like Mike Tyson, who's always been viewed as a power puncher for how hard and fast he can hit an opponent and has that one punch knockout power. He can hit them so hard that a single punch takes them out. This is also a common attribute among the heavier weight classes in combat sports. It's also what makes heavyweight boxing such a draw. Another form of speed, mental speed. So why am I bringing this up when talking about physical performance? Well, just take a moment to think about it. Okay? The faster you can make decisions, the faster you can perform. This doesn't matter what the task is. Yes, there will be a natural ability to this. It's why people are better suited for different things in life. A quarterback in football has to take a look at players on both sides of the ball and make a quick, at times, snap judgment on what they're going to do. Whether it's call an audible, throw the ball away, make the pass to their primary receiver, hand the ball off, or switch the play and they're going to go from under center to shotgun. The higher the level of play, the less time that quarterback is going to have to make that decision. In the medical world, a code orange triage situation in a hospital after a mass casualty event, the doctors, nurses, emergency medical technicians have to make fast decisions, and in the heat of battle after an ambush, soldiers must make fast decisions. Both of these are literally life and death decisions having to be made very quickly. Yes, there is the innate ability, but I just gave you different examples requiring fast decisions that are all trainable, while also having a wide range in what we view as intelligence. Typically, we view doctors as highly intelligent people, high IQ, whereas your typical grunt soldier doesn't have to have the same IQ requirement. The US Army at one point had a minimum IQ requirement, I believe around 70, which is 2 standard deviations below average. That was what they deemed as intelligent enough to know which way to point their weapon. They still are intelligent enough to make that snap fast decision to save their life and the lives of their comrades. Whereas a doctor in a triage situation has to make quick decisions on who to necessarily save first, who isn't necessarily savable, but you now have to give them essentially end-of-life care relatively quickly and put them at peace, and which drugs, how much drug is to be used. The nurses in these situations also have to use very quick snap decisions. The Hollywood movie Pearl Harbor showed an extreme example of this when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor at bringing the United States into World War II in December of 1942. You see in the movie that the nurses were going out with lipstick, putting labels on triage situation patients on who is savable and who is going to die. These types of fast mental decisions is what can save lives and what can cost lives in situations like this. This is also, yes, there is the innate ability, but at the end of the day, mental speed is also massively influenced by repetition. That's why when we start a new job or you're practicing a new play in a sport, it starts out slow and fractured. But after multiple reps and days, the speed increases. And your ability to do that job becomes easier, uses less brain power for the mundane tasks, and you're able to do it faster. You can watch a video of Chef Gordon Ramsay dicing up an onion very quickly without looking at it, while a novice needs to be paying very close attention, and they're going to be very slow, but over time their speed will improve. Chef Ramsay can do it without looking and not cut off his finger. A lot of people just in their home kitchen has to pay attention because if they don't, they can cut off their finger. Why? Repetition, lots of practice, years of experience, and yes, innate ability also influences this. A college quarterback, for example, is also going to be much slower breaking down a play than NFL Hall of Famer Peyton Manning. whose primary skill on the football field wasn't his athleticism, it was how smart he was. He could take a look at the defensive setup and point out who was going to blitz, what the coverage was going to be, and who is going to be fake blitzing or moving in what position. So as you can see from this overview of speed and how there are some of the different types, it's a bit more nuanced than simply going from point A to B in a period of time. But yes, it always does come down to a battle with the clock. In future episodes, I will be going into the development of different types of speed, as well as what purposes they necessarily might have, and in specific circumstances. Now, if you are on the hunt for a high-quality protein and other supplements, you can use code RISLING10 for 10% off with ATP Labs at www.atplabs.com. Thank you for listening. You can find me at Wrestling Performance on Instagram and www.wrestlingperformance.ca. Remember to subscribe, and thank you for listening to the Podium Performance Podcast as I continue to cover the foundations of performance. The next episode will be on stamina and work capacity, aka general fitness capability.